Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Compliance. I'm Ashley, the host of this podcast, and I am so happy that you're tuning in to this episode today. Please excuse me in advance for sounding a little sick. I've been sick the past couple of days, and today's like day 4, and I finally feel well enough to sit down and record, but I do sound a little nasally and a little stuffy, so just try to get through this with me. But this week, we're actually going to be talking about something that I've been getting asked ever since I started my HR career, oddly enough, even though I'm still early on in my career, I would say. And that's, how do I know if HR is the right career for me? And I love getting this question because HR can be one of the most meaningful careers, in my opinion. It also can be one of the most emotionally draining if you don't really understand what you're signing up for. But before we jump into this week's episode, let's talk about my coffee of the day. Today I have one of my favorite coffees. It's the Aggieland Texas Pecan. I'm kind of repping all of my A&M today, but it's just black coffee. It's my third cup today. Um, and I really needed it. And it's just plain black coffee, nothing in it. It's not fancy, but it's very dependable. Very on theme for today's episode because HR is kind of like that. But the main comparison for HR and coffee is they both keep things running. So make sure you grab your coffee, your matcha, your tea, or just whatever you're sipping on this morning, and let's jump into this week's episode. Okay, so let's start with talking about the reality of HR. Not the aesthetic version that you see on LinkedIn. HR is not just about hiring people, planning office parties, and employee outings, even though that's honestly such a fun part of HR. But HR is about being the calmest person in the room when someone else is having probably the worst day of their career. It's holding confidential information that just really weighs on you. It's enforcing policies, even the ones you didn't create. It's being the bridge between employees and leadership, and sometimes getting blamed for both. You see layoffs coming before any other people do. You hear about family emergencies. You handle conflict, investigations, performance issues, terminations, and so much more. It's just constant emotional labor. And the hardest part, you don't always get credit when things go well, but you absolutely hear about it when things go wrong. Now, let's clear some things up about HR misconceptions. Misconception number 1: HR just helps employees. HR supports employees, yes, but the role exists to protect the organization too. So it's definitely a balancing act. Misconception number 2: it's an easy office job. Yeah, it's mostly an office job, but it's also an emotional job, a judgment call job, and so many other things. It's not just a nice, cushy office job. Misconception number 3: you just follow the rules, which is true. HR is a lot about following the rules and ensuring managers follow the rules as well. However, we also have to live in the gray area more than people would think, or interpret those gray areas. Misconception number 4: you have to be a people person. Definitely helps to be a people person. You actually have to be a people person with boundaries. Empathy without boundaries can lead to burnout. Okay, so now let's do a little bit of a self check. I'm going to list out some signs and character traits that I want you to check yes or no, just in your mind. But if you say yes to these things, HR might be the right career for you. Can you stay calm when others are emotional? Can you hold confidential information without it eating you alive? You care about fairness, but you understand business realities? Can you have uncomfortable conversations without avoiding them? Do you need everyone to like you? Can you emotionally detach after hard days? If your nervous system crashes every time there's conflict, HR will be a steep learning curve for you if you decide to go that route. So, if you're HR curious, don't quit your job tomorrow. Test it first. There are a lot of options so that you can explore HR without fully committing right away. There are so many things, and let's talk about them. You can volunteer to help with onboarding, shadow someone in HR, help coordinate training. HR professionals love getting help, especially with training. Sit in on interviews. This is really good also if you're a manager or you're an assistant manager and you're wanting to kind of see if HR might be the right job for you. Ask to sit in on some interviews or ask to conduct some interviews. Another thing is to join HR communities online. And then also take an intro HR course. There's nothing wrong with signing up for one course. You don't have to be getting your associates, your bachelor's, your master's, your HR certification. You don't have to be getting any of that. Just take a class and see if you like it. And if you do, then you may have your answer. But in all honesty, you want exposure to the people side, not just the paperwork side. That's where the real HR job lives. Okay, so now let's talk sustainability because this is where people either build a career in HR or they burn out. Education in HR is not just about promotions, it's about your confidence. It's about being confident in your knowledge and confidence when making big decisions. And certifications like your SHRM or your PHR, they can help you understand the why behind policies and the why behind why we do so many things. Specializing in employee relations, recruiting, compensation, HR analytics, it can help you avoid becoming the do everything, absorb everything HR person. Let's talk SHRM certification first. Now, I know there's a lot of controversy around the SHRM organization right now with their recent lawsuits and their controversy involving their DE&I efforts, their attendance policy, pricing of their membership, and I could go on and on. But before I knew the behind the scenes of what was going on with the SHRM organization, I actually got my SHRM CP. And me personally, it was a great experience. It was a full deep dive into all HR and all of the business competencies. However, there are so many other HR certifications that are more affordable and will grant you those same knowledge tools that will help you gain confidence in your HR knowledge. The HRCI, or the Human Resource Certification Institute, they have some really good reviews. They're very, if you want to compare a little bit, that one is about a $400 out of pocket expense compared to the $600 out of pocket expense for SHRM, which does not include their learning system, which I highly recommend if you are leaning more towards the SHRM. And in that case, you're looking more at like $1,000 to $1,200. So, yeah, SHRM's a little bit expensive, but like I said, there's so many other HR certifications that you can lean towards. I personally recommend getting at least a few months of HR experience under your belt before looking into studying and taking your exam to obtain some type of HR certification. I don't think I would have understood fully all of the HR competencies and information as well if I hadn't been working as an HR coordinator for about a year before I decided to get my SHRM certification. Even though it's kind of crazy that most intermediate HR jobs are going to require some type of HR certification, but like I said, I recommend getting some experience under your belt before you pursue one of those HR certifications unless you're just really, really wanting to have that going into your first HR job. It's also really important to keep up with your knowledge in HR after you've completed your HR certification and not just, okay, that's over with. I've got it now. We're good to go. I'm certified. No, you've got to keep dusting up on your knowledge. You've got to stay up to date with all of the new employment laws coming out. That is just as important for every HR professional. Okay, moving into the new segment of the podcast, which is the Storytime segment. So, in this Storytime segment, I'm going to share some anonymous stories and comments from HR professionals on Reddit and both from my HR friends, all anonymous, like I said. So, let's kick this off. This first person said, "You don't choose HR. HR haunts your dreams. One day you wake up in a sweat screaming FMLA. You don't know why, but you don't fight it. You embrace it." There's something special in that. I love how truly raw that is. And a little comedic. The second person says, "I like the mix of customer service, law, IT, and admin. I like being in the know on all the gossip. I can relate to that. I used my analytical skills early on in my career, and it continued to be my big selling point as an HR professional. I was constantly learning and helping my employers to evolve to meet employees' needs." I love that. I love that. Okay, this third and last one that I'm going to go through, it says, "I never looked at the clock and wondered when my day would be over." I believe it was Chris Rock who said there's a difference between a career versus a job. A job, you stare at the clock just hoping for the day to end so you can go home. A career, you don't have enough time in the day to finish, so you're never looking at the clock. HR is my career. I feel like all three of these people, you really know that HR is their career. You can just hear it in the way that they talk about their career. Now let's talk about my moment as we're closing this out. My moment that I knew HR was the right career for me was about 6 months into my first HR job. I started noticing employees weren't just coming into my office to fill out forms or ask questions. They were coming in to breathe. They'd close the door, sit down, and just talk. My office became a safe space where people felt heard, not judged or in trouble. And I think that's when it's really clicked. The heart of HR wasn't policies or paperwork, it was being the place where people felt safe enough to land when things were heavy. And I knew I always wanted to be that person for employees. So, is HR the right career for you? If you care about people, can handle emotional complexity, are willing to learn the legal and business side, and can build strong boundaries, it can be an incredibly impactful career. But if you're looking for low conflict, low emotional work, where everyone leaves happy, HR might surprise you. So, thanks for hanging out with me today on Coffee and Compliance. New episodes drop every Monday at 8 a.m. Central. And until next time, keep your coffee warm and your workplace compliant.